The world has witnessed many wars, many invasions, and countless empires rise and fall, but nothing in modern history compares to what is unfolding in Ukraine. This is not just a war between two nations, it is a struggle between freedom and fear, between truth and tyranny, between the future and the past. When Russia's tanks first rolled across Ukraine's borders in February 2022, the Kremlin imagined a lightning victory, a quick conquest that would remind the world of Moscow's power. But the first missile that struck Kiev also awakened something far greater than Putin could ever understand: the soul of a nation that refuses to kneel. What began as a desperate defense has become a revolution in warfare itself. Ukraine, outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded, has done the impossible. It has changed the way wars are fought, the way nations resist, and the way the world defines courage. At the start, analysts predicted days, maybe weeks before Kiev would fall. Yet weeks turned into months, and months into years, and instead of surrender, Ukraine grew stronger. The cities that were supposed to crumble became fortresses of defiance. The people who were expected to flee turned into soldiers, engineers, drone pilots, medics, and heroes. Every destroyed bridge was rebuilt, every fallen soldier became a symbol of resistance, and every Russian victory turned hollow under the weight of Ukrainian resilience. As Russian propaganda flooded its own people with lies of victory, satellite images and eyewitness reports told a different story. Russia's once mighty army was bleeding out in the mud, fighting not for glory but for survival. Ukraine's transformation stunned the world. This was not a war fought by brute strength, but by intelligence and innovation. Western technology fused with Ukrainian determination to create a new kind of battlefield. Swarms of AI-guided drones patrolled the skies, identifying and striking Russian convoys with surgical precision. Cyber warfare units intercepted Russian communications, exposing plans before they could unfold. Artillery guided by satellites turned the front lines into a chessboard where every move was calculated, every strike deliberate. Russia, stuck in its old Soviet mindset, could not adapt. Its generals, raised on fear and corruption, found themselves outsmarted by young Ukrainian officers who understood modern war better than anyone else alive. And then came the turning points. The battle for Kharkiv, where Ukrainian forces retook land once thought lost forever. The liberation of Kherson, which sent shockwaves through the Kremlin. The daring drone attacks that struck deep into Crimea and even Russia itself, destroying airfields, supply lines, and the illusion of Moscow's invincibility. The footage spread across the internet: Russian soldiers abandoning their posts, Russian warships in flames, Russian cities hearing explosions they never thought would reach them. For decades, Russia was the one that made others afraid, but now, for the first time, fear had crossed into Russia's own heartland. Putin's empire began to crumble from within. Sanctions suffocated the economy. Factories ran out of western parts. Oil revenues plummeted. The ruble collapsed. Young men fled the country to escape forced conscription, while those who remained were sent to the front with no training, no equipment, and no hope. The once proud Russian army became a symbol of corruption and incompetence. Commanders stole supplies, soldiers filmed their suffering on TikTok, and mothers of the dead demanded to know why their sons had died for nothing. Putin's iron grip was still visible, but it was rusting, cracking, and trembling under the pressure of truth. Meanwhile, Ukraine rose from the ashes like a phoenix. Cities once bombed beyond recognition are being rebuilt, powered by hope and supported by the world. NATO stood taller than ever before, united in purpose. Nations that once feared Russia now stand defiant: Finland and Sweden joining the alliance, Eastern Europe arming faster than ever. Every missile Russia fired only strengthened the unity of Ukraine's allies. Every atrocity only deepened the world's determination to see justice done. And in the middle of it all stood President Volodymyr Zelensky, a man once known for acting, now defining leadership itself. Dressed in military green, speaking to parliaments around the world, he became the voice of freedom in the 21st century, the man who showed that courage could still shake empires. Ukraine's spirit has become unstoppable. Farmers drive captured Russian tanks. Coders build drones from spare parts. Teenagers volunteer in hospitals. Grandmothers knit camouflage nets for the front lines. It is not just a war, it is a national awakening, a movement of unity so deep that even bombs cannot silence it. The blue and yellow flag now waves as a global symbol of defiance, not just for Ukrainians, but for every nation that has ever been bullied, threatened, or invaded, and yet, Putin cannot stop. Every new offensive he launches costs him more than it gains. Every missile he fires pushes another ally away. His threats of nuclear weapons, once terrifying, now sound desperate, the final cries of a cornered tyrant. Inside the Kremlin, paranoia reigns. Generals vanish mysteriously. Oligarchs fall from windows. The power that once projected fear now eats itself from within. But the most important victory is not military, it is moral. Ukraine has shown the world that truth can outlast lies, that bravery can outshine brutality, and that even in the darkest times, humanity can still rise. Russia wanted to erase Ukraine. Instead, it erased its own dignity. The images of Bucha and Mariupol, of bombed schools and hospitals, will forever haunt Moscow's history. And the names of Ukrainian heroes from Kiev to Bakhmut to Odessa will forever remind the world of what it means to stand and fight for freedom now. As the war enters a new phase, the balance has permanently shifted. Ukraine's military is stronger than ever. Russia's losses are irreparable: thousands of tanks, hundreds of aircraft, millions of lives shattered. Even if the fighting stopped tomorrow, Russia would need decades to rebuild what it has lost, and even then, it will never regain what matters most: respect, trust, and fear. The myth of Russian invincibility is dead. The age of intimidation is over. This war will be remembered not for destruction, but for transformation. Ukraine has changed everything: how nations fight, how alliances form, how freedom survives. And in doing so, it has redefined what victory means. Because true victory is not measured in land or weapons, but in spirit, the spirit of a people who refuse to be conquered. So, when historians write about this war, they won't just write about Putin or missiles or borders, they will write about a nation that stood alone against one of the most powerful militaries on earth and won. They will write about courage that burned brighter than any bomb. They will write about the day the world changed forever, the day Ukraine stood tall, and Russia fell. And as the sun rises each morning over the ruins and rebirth of Ukraine, one truth echoes louder than the thunder of war: Russia may someday rebuild its tanks, may someday replace its leaders, but it will never recover from what Ukraine has done. Because Ukraine didn't just survive, it transformed. It changed the war. It changed history. And it changed the world forever. 显示欧洲和非洲的地球仪紧绷的二头肌。